Hey everyone, just wanted to give a little bit of an update since I had been out for a few weeks and hadn't been able to post. Um, Mostly just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the forecast and some of the experiences that I've seen kind of working out on the trail and volunteering and everything like that. I'd been out for a few weeks just mostly because I got married, so I've been kind of busy on that. But let me go ahead and share my screen and kind of give you my prediction for how I think this election will go. Mm, Go. All right. So here we go. So I'm using some sort of someone's, I think this is RCP, their map. So starting off, I kind of took a lot of these that were already kind of will most likely go one direction, such as Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and we'll go there. And there's a few of these, such as like Colorado, I've already marked as that, and we'll really talk about some of the swing states here. So going ahead, I think I was going to be a likely Republican. Now Missouri, I think this will probably be likely. I think you'll see some of the Senate races go maybe a little or will be a little bit more Democratic than say than the presidential race. Additionally, there's congressional seats in there that will definitely be open for people to fight for, and this really kind of brings us down to what is actually the states that are in play, such as Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and then Wisconsin. Some people put Minnesota. I think Minnesota will probably be a likely Democratic seat, just because of Waltz and some of the other stuff going on there. I think they'll win probably by 5 to maybe 8. So going off and let's starting off with some of the other seats. So I think Ohio, you've got the advantage there with JD Vance. I think you've got a strong working class voters there, men particularly. So they're going to most likely vote for Trump, and I think that's about on par where we'll see them. I think he'll probably end up winning, kind of similar with say some of these states like Missouri, and some other states where he'll probably win by maybe 8 or something like that. Next, you've got some of these big Sunbelt states that we can start off with there, and we'll finish with the quote unquote blue wall. I think Nevada, honestly, I think with some of the data that I've seen, I think I'm going to give it kind of like a lean Republican on that. I think this will probably be like a toss up, but it will probably end up going Republican on that end. Same thing with Arizona. I think Arizona is going to go lean Republican. You have a lot of those border issues as well as Hispanics doing better for Trump. Now, one thing that would blow out this entire map out of the water is if you don't see that shift in the minority vote. I think you will. But maybe if for some reason they don't go Trump's way on that. I think you could see some of these states kind of not shifting as much. I think in Arizona you're going to have a Democrat in the Senate seat there. I think that's Gallego. Um, I think you'll see a lot there. Definitely a hotbed of area. I've traveled out there recently for work. Um, you're definitely seeing some more politics. I saw um, a lot of ads regarding border security, economy, and things like that. Definitely, same thing with Florida, huge in Texas, and I think a little bit of North Carolina. Huge funding going into people who are bilingual, who speak Spanish, and really trying to get out those votes for their particular group. So I think given that shift going more towards Trump, I think you could see a little bit more of Arizona going into the Republican territory. Texas, I think this is going to be a lean Republican. I think Allred will do probably pretty well. I kind of like him. I kind of follow him in the Texas map and the Texas Senate seat. He ended up he'll probably end up getting somewhere kind of around where Beto was. Um, I think really, and I think this really just kind of shows, I'm from Texas, so I guess I can say this. You can see a little bit of where the Texas Democratic Party is just not where they need to be. I think he's being smarter um, and kind of going for more of those suburban voters and things like that. But I really just think that what they kind of need is kind of what we're seeing in Georgia a little bit, where it's like, or I should say, maybe you would see in more North Carolina, where you got to have, if you can start penetrating that executive branch and having the state seats being Republican, just most because of gerrymandering and all the other kind of stuff, and party affiliation. I think if you can start seeing some Democrats really kind of hitting that top executive branch, land commissioner, governor, lieutenant governor, all these other kind of seats, I think you could really see Texas kind of shifting more blue. I think that's what's going to help them get over. I think that's why Georgia really hasn't been able to get over that hump. Um, but I think Texas is gonna go Republican, and I think although Allred is doing a good job here, if I was him, I would definitely be like, "Hey, look, I think it's, in 2 years maybe, I think, Abbott's gonna be leaving." I'd tell Allred, "Hey, go in, make those connections, build those relationships with, the donors, in-state, out-of-state, and be ready to come back in 2 years and really kinda put up some numbers." Um, as you'll see, I don't think, if Kamala wins, you can bring him in. He could, try to fit somewhere in the administration. I could see if he was, maybe energy, having someone that's more middle of the road on energy policy is someone who I think could really kind of do a lot of good, especially with Texas being a huge energy state. You can really start kind of building those relationships. He can come back, get the governor's seat, really kind of start building out that party. And I think that's really what's going to be needed to shift um, the state of Texas into a Democratic state. Same thing with Florida. Florida's kind of the exact same way. I think they're going to go lean Republican. I think these two are probably going to be tied. Essentially, I think they're going to be maybe a 3, maybe 5% on both of these states will probably end up going for Trump. Um, Senate races are obviously a little different. I would like to see if Rick Scott got beat down here, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he's too strong and he's got too much money, and I think he knows how to kind of play the game in terms of being with the people who you need to be with. So I think these two states will go there, but it really kind of shows, hey, if DeSantis is going to be out in 26 as well. I think it'd be really big if you could somehow find someone who's going to come in and kind of take that governor's seat in Florida, just like as you've seen before. Um, I think they're really kind of getting disadvantaged by not having the marijuana on the ballot in 2026 and some of these other ones, but I think that could really push kind of that progressive movement in getting getting whoever you need at the top of the ticket to win. So as you see here, you're already at 226 and 236, and there's just 4 states left in play. Georgia, this one will definitely, like, this is going to go Trump as well. I think this one you'll probably see less than 3%, maybe 2%. I think Chuck Todd has mentioned not having Raphael Warnock at the top. Um, I think what could bail out Harris in states like Texas, Georgia, Florida, maybe even Arizona is if you still had some of this huge migration numbers coming in, and then all those being kind of Democratic leaning voters. I think um, you could see this go a little bit more of her way, to where Georgia could be very tight. But I think the state party of Georgia, just like the state party of Texas, just like the state party of Florida, they're just too strong. They're too strong. They're too robust. They're too entrenched. They're too well known in the fundraising. And that's why I think um, you really need to see kind of more of these candidates. Everyone wants to go be a senator, but I think you really kind of need to get those congressional seats, get those governor seats, and really that's where you're going to make a lot of the difference. And state parties of Texas, Georgia, and Florida just aren't there yet. And I think if they get there, you could really see a huge shift, such as I could let's say 2028, if they put in the work, maybe they got all red in there, you could maybe see something like this. Same thing with these states if they were smart. Um, I mean, if you did that, I mean, you're going to start having blowout numbers. Um, but obviously, you're not going to see that. I don't think they want to do that. I think on the issues, they're too tainted by that national brand, which I really think kind of shows as someone who's in the South and who's kind of been with the Democratic Party is that national Democratic brand is just killer, especially once you get on the rural communities and then you're fighting for your life in suburban communities. Um, and so I just don't think you're going to see that. It'd be great, like I said, if you can do that, but I don't think you're going to see that as much. Then you kind of start getting to some of these other states. I think North Carolina, I think will go lean Democrat. I think North Carolina is a state. They've got, speaking of governor stuff, I think this will really kind of be the tell. And I think Democrats need to learn from what's going on in North Carolina. And I'm not going to, I think there's this huge uh, push where, they've got these younger people, they've got this turnout, they got all this other kind of stuff. I don't necessarily think that's it. I think it's having good candidates running. One of the congressmen who got gerrymandered out, he's not just, okay, well, I'm done. He's staying in state politics. He's, I believe, running for attorney general, and that's really going to do a lot for that state, especially from the Democratic standpoint. Same thing, you can do the same thing with Georgia. You can do the same thing with Florida. You can do the same thing with Texas. Get these people into those lieutenant governor, the governor, lieutenant attorney general, some of these other states, and really kind of put in some work. I think Texas is a good example of this. Say, let's say maybe not all red since he's running for Senate, but let's say you get some other congressman who's kind of middle of the road. Say he's shares similar views with all red, or he could be there. Having someone who says, "Hey, we're not gonna do this stuff on abortion. We're not gonna penalize these women, everything like that," and then saying we're gonna be pro gun, we're gonna be pro border, all these other kind of things. I think you could really see, and maybe even a tough on crime candidate. There might be someone in there who you could pull, and I think if you do that, you're really, I think, gonna see some good stuff happen in Texas, and I think can really kind of start pushing and helping out these brands in the South. I think Democrats just haven't played the game down there since really 2010. And then that erosion had kind of been happening, um, for decades before. But I think once it hit 2010, they've never really recovered. And I think they're just kind of hoping on this migration to come in there and shift the politics instead of saying, why are these voters not going with us? So I think North Carolina is going to be a key point. I think their governor has just kind of gone to shit. I don't think the national brand's not willing to support him, and so I think if you kind of have that governor in there, similar to what you have with Roy Cooper, who I like, and I think he did a good job given where he's at. Having someone like that, and I think Texas could have the same thing with all red. I understand the state maybe isn't going to work. You're not a president, you don't have complete executive authority, but having someone on there to say, no, 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 like, look, here's some of the good things that I've done. I'm just going to be a middle of the road, um, you know, governor. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm not trying to do any of this kind of stuff. I think you can really kind of see that go a long way. Ohio's kind of the same thing. I think it's just the big issues. You got these congressional candidates who they're there, and if they're there and they're doing their job honestly, they should have executive experience, or not executive experience, but they should have leadership experience to where they can go back into these state races and really just kind of start running up the tables. So I think that's the only way. That's the Georgia's way forward, or not Georgia, but the Democrats' way forward on all this. Wisconsin, I think this is going to go lean Democrat. Same thing with Michigan, which kind of puts them in a tricky situation. I think the reason why I think maybe you could see maybe one of these go Republican is I think Wisconsin is more Republican than Democrat. I think they've started making the inroads there. Um, and it hasn't moved much, so I think that's going to be a tight one, just like North Carolina. I think North Carolina and Wisconsin and um, not as much of an extent Michigan, but maybe even a little bit of Pennsylvania. You're going to see those in like maybe less than 1.5 points, maybe 1 percentage points. It's going to be a tight race. They're definitely on the nice edge there. But I think Wisconsin is definitely becoming more the liberal side. I think you're seeing that erosion of the state party. I think you almost saw them get rid of their Senate candidate. They've won their governor for Democrat. They won the Supreme Court, so I think you see the momentum going that way. And I think their state party is really kind of starting to consolidate and get organized and things like that. Um, I don't like I said, I don't think they're going to win by big, but you may see similar numbers that Biden had. Same thing with Michigan. Everyone likes to talk about the Muslim vote. Personally, I think that's going to kill them if they end up going that way. I think I saw some data of people saying, oh, Arab Americans can't punish Trump, so they're going to punish the Democrats. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I think they really need to stick with the Democratic Party. I think and believe Kamala. I think Kamala's just in this sticky position. And I think you need to say, hey, like we're gonna be for them, um, and we're gonna punish them later. You know, so yeah, so I think you could see Michigan go that way. I think the deterioration in the union vote. I think that's gonna hurt her. Um, I think the party is kind of stronger in Michigan. I think I've been reading that the Republican Party in Michigan is it's just not there. A lot of these kind of um, blue wall states, they've really kind of seen the hit in their state parties. Like I said, they've kind of retreated from Michigan and had some dysfunction there. Same thing with Wisconsin. I think Pennsylvania is going to be the big state that everyone's going to be looking at. I think it's going to decide. You've already heard some commentators say, hey, uh, if Kamala loses Pennsylvania, people are going to be kicking themselves about Shapiro. I think that's 100% true. I wasn't a Waltz person. I was definitely more of a Shapiro. I also thought Mark Kelly would be good because I think you could then kind of go on the offensive here and let's say maybe that becomes a lean or something like that. Then it doesn't really matter because you've already won. Now, no one knew what North Carolina was going to do. Um, but yeah, so I was very much in favor of this. Um, However, I think she could win, as I think you see some of the over here, Trump's got this lead in the Electoral College, um, but Casey's up against McCormick. So I think it's going to be interesting in Pennsylvania. There used to be a Democrat, now they're kind of shifting to a GOP. So it's going to be tough. Um, so we'll see. I think the thing in Pennsylvania that's gonna, it's not gonna be so much a minority. It's gonna be these suburbs are gonna come out. I think it's gonna be interesting to see if those investments that Biden made in, bringing manufacturing back, some of that kind of hit in Pennsylvania. And so I think it's gonna be interesting to kind of see if that kind of goes there. I will say I've heard that the apparatus in Pennsylvania kind of favors more of the Democrats. I think they were a little bit more entrenched there. However, Trump, he's got away with winning Pennsylvania, so I think he could clearly win it. Personally, I think Trump's going to end up winning this election, and I think this is what you'll probably end up seeing, um, something like this. Um, and I think what's going to end up being called into question with Trump winning by literally one electoral college point is that if they would have had Shapiro over here, and if they would have spent more time out here out west, um, or they took Nevada for granted or something like that. I think you're going to see this is a very narrow one. But I think really what's gonna be interesting is okay, who comes out to vote. Um, you can see these people kind of suppress each other. I think I saw something on Reddit. There's not a lot of people supporting or coming to Kamala's rallies. There's not a lot of people coming to Trump's rallies. Blah 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 blah. I don't really kind of buy into that. I think that a lot of it's just propaganda and trolls and stuff like that. But I think it's really going to be who's coming out. And I think if this election was a month ago, I think Harris would be on top, and she would probably win. Um, Oops, not that one. I think she would probably win this state. Um, Probably win this one and this one. And I think she'd kind of get the 303 and would be pretty strong and switch North Carolina for Georgia, and she'd kind of win that. Um, so I think it's just gonna be interesting. Um, I just don't know. I think I'm not in the weeds enough to kind of know where this is gonna land. But this is kind of my prediction, that Trump's going to win by one. And I could see some Democrats kind of throwing some stuff, but I think they'll kind of, you know, leave with their head held high, so to speak. Um, but yeah, so at the same time, I could see Trump taking North Carolina, and maybe even kind of playing around in Michigan or Wisconsin, and really kind of dominating on his end too. Um, yeah, so that would put him 287. I think that's probably about fair. I think that I think you shouldn't see anything over 303. Um, and I don't see for 303 for Harrison Waltz, but I don't think they would go down below 250. Maybe 240. But as a progressive conservative, as I've got on here as my calling card or whatever you want to call it, um, I believe that a more centrist viewpoint is going to win out, and is good in the long term. I think someone who's willing to create the change in the country, and someone who can do that from a conservative standpoint will win big. And so, I think that it'll be interesting to see. And I think that I think if Harris loses, I think you might see the shift to the center a little bit. I think that um, same thing if Trump loses, you might see the shift a little bit more to the center. Some some of the MAGAs get shed. Um, but I think if Trump wins, he's staying where he's at. But I think if Kamala wins, um, she might kind of end up shifting a little to the center just because I think she knows that she needs to have a coalition. And I think, you can see the House kind of going towards the Democrats, but she kind of knows that if she wins anything, if she wins this presidential race, at most she's got one other chamber. At worst, she has no other chambers, and I think it's gonna be a challenge for her, and I think she's gonna move to the center either way. But I think the party is gonna stay where it's at. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. I'm hoping I can do a few more of these, and letting everyone know kind of how it goes, and I'll talk to everyone later. Thanks.